Hello, welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Those Beautiful Dames, released in 1934. It's the 92nd in the series and it's directed by Friz Freleng. Since doing my original commentary a few years ago, a HD version has surfaced. It's not on disc yet. In fact, that version was also cut, so it must have been something broadcast on TV. So the version I'm using here has the missing bit put back in, and I'll go through why that bit was cut out. In case you haven't seen this one, there's really not much to it. You've got a girl that's walking in the cold, she's seeing toys, and she's clearly in a really bad state in her home. She falls asleep. These toys come to her home and fix it all up, and everyone's just singing and dancing, really. So again, not really much to it. So first up, you're going to see a re-edit of the original commentary I did before I had to take that down due to copyright on YouTube. And that's why you can't see this short on YouTube at all, because if you try and put up the whole short, it'll just get blocked. You'll then hear some new thoughts from me, and then you'll hear from my good friend Manny, the Toonie tenor, who will go through the song, as this is a Merrie Melodies short that's promoting a song. So without further ado, let's get into it. As you can see right away, we've got colour again. So the Merrie Melodies had two colour cartoons that were done in two strips Cinecolor, but then they went back to black and white, and now they're back to colour, and that's how the Merrie Melodies will remain from here on. Is this a fun cartoon? No, not really. Is it a bad cartoon? No. I've seen far worse. In fact, I vaguely remember seeing this one maybe on TV. In Australia, on Cartoon Network, they would actually show mainly the pre-1930, so 1948 stuff, so we would get a lot of the older Merrie Melodies, and I'm pretty sure I saw this one. It's just one of those things that's nagging at my mind, but anyway. Look, and in this one, what's weird is that it's clearly a Christmas-inspired short, but they don't mention Christmas at all, and you'd think that they would, but anyway, maybe it wasn't as close to Christmas as I would like. I don't know. I mean, this one was released in early November, as I understand it, so maybe. Yeah, this one, there's no real crazy jokes or anything like that. And that's not to say the previous Merrie Melodies, a lot of them were the wildest thing ever, like it was Tex Avery or Bob Clampett doing it, but they at least had some really funny things out there. But then now, it feels like I'm watching again the last few Merrie Melodies from the harmonizing era. Well, here's a little bit that I didn't mind, and that was all these dancing bears dancing to the actual title song of Those Beautiful Dames. I mean, it's nothing special, but, you know, it looks nice. And, you know, that little minor gag with the skipping record, you know, it's a nice little touch. What's interesting is that one of the credited animators in this was Chuck Jones, who would, within a few years, start directing his own cartoons, and he would be directing some of the Sniffles cartoons, which were, well, they were a lot more slower, and this kind of reminds me of that. I don't know. And yeah, and we pretty much finish up at dinner with the toys, and that's pretty much it. It just ends. So it's funny how the beginning is very similar to a harmonizing cartoon. Now the end is just about the same, where it's just going to be it just ends. There's nothing else. I don't know. Now, I like Friz as a director, but his earlier stuff here is definitely hit or miss. So those are my original thoughts, and I didn't think much of it then, and I still don't. Although it looks much better now, all restored, because back then, when I did the recording, it was just an unrestored print I was using. Regardless of the quality of the short itself, I would really like to see everything restored at some point. So in the track, I already mentioned that this is the first two-strip Technicolor Merrie Melodies short. With Friz, it's not his first color short, but it's his first two-strip Technicolor short, and this is the beginning of a period for Friz where he'll make similar shorts Nothing too exciting, perhaps, but it is what it is, and we'll definitely go through each and every one of them as we get to them. So from here on, all the Merrie Melodies shorts will come out in color, initially for about a year, 2-strip technicolor, and then after that, 3-strip technicolor. And the Looney Tunes series, being the cheaper series, would remain in black and white. And this short, to be honest, is really only important from an historical perspective, and nothing else. So I'll go through a few bits and short that I missed in just a moment. I'll just quickly mention that the song comes from the 1934 movie Dames, and is the main song, and you can hear it all throughout the short. But my friend Manny will go through all of that in just a few moments. I do like the opening where Freeze is trying to create some mood here, with the girl being poor and sad, wishing that she had some toys to play with, and clearly your house is all dilapidated, and I don't know, is she an orphan? I don't know. We don't find any of this stuff really, and I guess we don't really need to either, but we see that she's really sad, down on luck, and Freeze is really trying hard here. Freeze has mentioned before that he would watch a Disney short and just get depressed because what he was seeing was so much better than what he was doing, or at least that's how he felt anyway. So I wonder if he watched a few Disney shorts with the personality animation and tried to do it himself in this short. But anyway, that sort of information is lost to time now. But there is a small butt joke where the snow lands in her underwear. I felt it kind of ruined the mood a bit, whatever. Then we see her home, and again, this is really bleak. If you really think about it, if she's by herself as an orphan who actually owns this property, why is she here? I know, overthinking it, I know, but yeah, it's quite sad, really. And we even see one hungry-looking mouse. Wow, things are really bleak in this home. But hey, even though she has no food, at least she has a flame in the actual heater, right? But no. They just kick her while she's down, and that one small flame goes out as well. So, pretty sad. And then we see that the toys rock up, and a lot of them actually look very similar to the ones in Beauty and the Beast. So, I'm guessing that Frizz just reused those designs, because why not? These things weren't binge-watched back in the day. I'm pretty sure no one in the audience will be yelling at, "Oh, I saw those toys before." No, nobody cared. It's just an interesting thing I noticed here. Some may argue with this one that the rest of the short is just like a fever dream of a child having maybe a cold or something, and she's just imagining all this stuff happening, but that's us looking at it through like a modern lens, so to speak. This is just an innocent little story that Frizz and whoever cooked up, where it's just a down on a luck girl. She wishes she has toys. Toys come to her place and fix things up, and now she's happy. So that's all it is. I really doubt that they were trying to make anything dark, you know. And again, I know this is supposed to be an innocent cartoon, but how on earth did those toys fix everything up so good? Maybe she's just dreaming all of this. That's probably the most likely thing, but again, whatever. So we see the toys singing and dancing, and there's two that interested me. One was the jazz bow singer. Now, I'm not going to go into the history of jazz, but there was a time when jazz was considered immoral because it was quote-unquote black people's music. Of course, he eventually did get accepted into the wider community, but that explains why you've got those black figurines on that music box. Now, the bit that was cut, so this would have been broadcast somewhere, and so this would have shown up cut, and I wonder if they restored that bit that was cut or not, or if they just cut it and then restored it. I don't know, but yeah, we see chocolate cake with what's known as Pickaninny dolls. Yeah. In case you weren't aware, these dolls were created based on the imagined subhuman young black children, and they had the hair sticking up with bow ties. Very popular, actually, back in the day, but it's offensive today, especially based on the origins, which I'm not going to get into in depth here, but I can see why they cut this. But for us collectors and those who are aware of the history, hopefully that footage is restored properly, because it's still part of it, and it's hard to look at, I know, but it should be fully uncut. And we go on, and I like the animation of the toys, but again, there's no real story here. In fact, this is similar to a harmonizing short called The Shanty Where Santa Claus Lives, where you had Downey's like boy in that one. Santa shows up, He goes to Santa's workshop and all the toys come alive, and that's pretty much it. Here it's a very similar thing, and you're just watching for the rest of the cartoon, just toys dancing. That's pretty much it. So, yeah. Probably my favorite bit of animation here is the animation of the dancing bears and how they react to the record players skipping. I liked it back then when I watched it for the first time, and I still do. I think it's pretty good. And on top of that, I wonder who did the animation of the girl dancing. It's pretty cute. I do wonder who did it, though. I don't know if it's Chuck Jones who's credited in this one. Could be someone else. I don't know. It's information that's perhaps lost to time. And then we finish up with a meal at midnight. Although it looks like it's just ice cream that they're eating. But the end gag is just, you just look at it and you just shrug and go, okay. So they hit a jack-in-the-box inside and just pops out and that's it? It just ends? I don't know. There must be more to this one. Maybe they just want to get something quickly out of the way, or it just feels such an incomplete cartoon. It sounds like they went in one direction, but they just couldn't figure out how to finish it off, and then maybe they had a deadline and they had to finish it like this, and that's it. I don't know. I'm speculating, but whatever. In any case, I've prattled on long enough. My good friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, is going to discuss the origins of the song that you hear, which is Dames. So take it away, Manny.
Hi everyone, this is Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, coming at you with the latest edition of It's Time for Manny's Music Time with music trivia for you today. Bump! Ooh, I sang 4 masses in the past 2 days, so I don't know if that sounded quite right, but whatever. I mean, that's what we come here for, just to hear me sing my little jingle, right? So I'm here to talk to you about the 1934 Merrie Melodie cartoon, Those Beautiful Dames, directed by Isidore Fritz Freeling. So Anthony most likely already brought up the fact that this is the first 2-strip Technicolor cartoon. The last Merrie Melodie that I recorded was the Schlesinger Studios' farewell to black and white Merrie Melodies, Rhythm in a Bow, but now we get to do something in color. And it's only limited to 2-strip Technicolor until 1935, when Disney no longer has the exclusive rights to 3-strip Technicolor, and we could see more of the hues in the cartoon to make them a little bit more interesting. So when it comes to the music of this cartoon, there ain't much to talk about because there's really only 3 cues. But let's start off with one that I tend to overlook. I mean, I mention it in the other Merrie Melodies, but I figured I'd give it a little love today. So what am I talking about in particular? It's the first thing that you hear. I Think You're Ducky. So I Think You're Ducky is the Merrie Melodies theme song that started right around 1933 when the studio switched over from harmonizing over to Leon Schlesinger Productions. And it continued on until 1936 when it was replaced with Merrily We Roll Along, probably the most famous of all the Warner Brothers cartoons theme songs. And I always have a habit of correcting people, you know, when I say, oh, that's the Looney Tunes theme song, you know, da 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 da, and I have to correct them and tell them that it's technically the Merrie Melodies, but then again, nobody cares except for nerds like us. So I just roll with the punches. I'm like, yeah, that's the Looney Tunes theme song. But yeah, I Think You're Ducky. I've always enjoyed this particular piece of music that you hear from 33 to 36. There is no recording of it. Like, the only recordings that you have are from these specific cartoons. And I like how in the beginning of I Think You're Ducky, I think around the time of a cartoon, think of like I've Got to Sing a Torque Song, that the arrangement is a little bit longer. They tend to extend one of the parts. But soon after, the theme song is shortened. But I've always liked this particular song. This and Beauty and the Beast, which is not the Disney film from 1991, nor the Merrie Melodie cartoon from 1934 as well, but I'm talking about the Looney Tunes theme song that was used for the Buddy cartoons. And I've always had a thing for those particular theme songs. I mean, everybody thinks of The Merry-Go-Round Broke Down and Merrily We Roll Along, but these two definitely have charms to them. So I Think You're Ducky, like I said, does not have an official recording besides these Merrie Melodie cartoons from this time period. And the song was co-written by Gerald Marks, Sidney Clare, and Charles Tobias. I'm going to talk a little bit about Gerald Marks and Sidney Clare today. I'm going to save Charles Tobias for another day, once we get to around the time of Billboard Frolics. So who is Gerald Marks? So Gerald Marks was born October 13th, 1900, and he died January 27th, 1997. Gerald Marks was born in Saginaw, Michigan, which happens to be the birthplace of one of my all-time favorite musicians, one of my heroes, Mr. Stevlin or Stevlin. I actually don't remember the exact way to say his first name, but let's say Stevlin Morris, better known as Stevie Wonder. So look at that, two awesome musicians that come from the same hometown. So he had a very long life. He lived to be 96 years old, and it's kind of interesting whenever I run into a songwriter, whenever I do these segments, that existed at the same time as me, because a lot of these guys passed away before I was born, but when he passed in 1997, I was 8 going on 9 years old. So it's kind of cool that we existed around the same time period. So Marks wrote music with a lot of collaborators, a lot of lyricists and co-songwriters. His most famous piece of music is All of Me, that he co-wrote with Seymour Simons. I remember the first time I worked as a teacher, this is going back about 10, 11 years ago, I did the song All of Me with my 7th and 8th grade advanced choir, and they liked it. They did pretty well in that song, too. And now I actually have some context better as to who was the songwriter of it. But yeah, Gerald Marks, he's really known for that song. The success of the song actually helped him become a member of ASCAP, which is the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. So now let's talk a little bit about the other songwriter involved in this particular song, Sidney Clare. So Sidney Clare was born August 15th, 1892 in New York City, and he passed away August 29th, 1972 in Los Angeles, California. So he was born in the largest city in the United States and died in the second largest city in the United States in terms of population. So a lot of this information from the Songwriters Hall of Fame as well as from Wikipedia. The same thing with the information that I said for Gerald Marks. So he was involved in comedy, he danced, he was a composer as well, and a lyricist. He is best known for 2 songs, the first one being On the Good Ship Lollipop, which, so funny story, I was telling somebody a few days ago, or somebody that I work with, had a bag of animal crackers that are also covered in, not Reese's Pieces, but like the Reese's cup, the peanut butter and the chocolate. And I had one. I was like, oh my God, this thing is addictive. Like, get it away from me. I'll eat the whole bag. And then I just started singing, animal crackers in my soup, lump monkeys and rabbits, loop the loop. And there was a commercial when I was a kid, I think it was Nickelodeon, that it was like a compilation of several VHSs of Shirley Temple, some of the films that she was in back in the 30s. And I distinctly remember animal crackers in my soup and On the Good Ship Lollipop. And of course, I would be remiss, and come on, you guys know this is coming. You know, if you've been listening to my commentaries, you know this was inevitable. I think of On the Good Ship Lollipop, and I think of Martin Prince singing this in The Simpsons, because I can't help myself. And Sidney Clare is also famous for co-writing the song Please Don't Talk About Me When I'm Gone, which is from 1930. That he co-wrote with Sam Stept. So that is, please don't talk about me when I'm gone, oh baby. That song is better known as one of the pieces that Michigan J. Frog sings in the classic 1955 cartoon, One Step Ahead of My Shadow. Why did I say One Step Ahead? Why did that one pop in my head? My bad. One Froggy Evening. Wow. I'm probably in Merrie Melody land, and for some reason, yeah, so One Froggy Evening, Michigan J. Frog. That's one of the songs that he sings. So Sidney Clare is responsible for co-writing that song, and you can thank him for also co-writing the song that Martin Prince sings to in The Simpsons.
Please don't talk about me when I'm gone. Oh, honey, though our friendship ceases from now on.
And finally, the other songwriter for this one is Charles Tobias, but again, I'm going to save him for another time. Charles Tobias is kind of notable in Warner Brothers cartoon history because he's the co-writer of both I Think You're Ducky and, of course, Merrily We Roll Along, the future Merrie Melodies theme, but we'll save that for another day, shall we? So let's talk about the title track itself, Dames. So The song Dames, which is featured predominantly in a cartoon, and you hear some altered lyrics in the beginning. Those beautiful dolls in the scene where all the toys and the dolls are singing to the impoverished little girl in the beginning.
What do you go for? Ice cream or show or do you go for cute and cunning beautiful dolls? We'll make you happy with songs so snappy. We are cute and cunning, young and beautiful dolls.
And then when the little girl goes to the record player, you start hearing the original lyrics playing from the record. I really like that scene. The way that the bears are animated and how they're dancing, I'm not a whiz when it comes to explaining actual animation, but it's very fluid and it looks very nice. And I also get a kick out of the gag when the record player starts skipping.
What do you go for? Go see a show for. Tell the truth, you go to see those beautiful dames. You spend your dough for. Okay, the crow for those cute and cunning, young and beautiful dames. All dames are temporary, very, 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 very plain.
But yeah, there's just something about the way those bears are dancing, just the fluidity of their movement that's just really appealing. Most of the cartoon is just, typical early Merrie Melody animation from the burgeoning Schlesinger studio, but you see aspects of Freeling's musical talent coming through. So going back to the song itself, Dames, it's also from the film called Dames, I know, riveting. I didn't have an opportunity to watch the full film prior to this. Ruby Keeler dances to this song in a rehearsal in the film, and the song is later sung by the incredible Dick Powell. Again, I wish I had an opportunity to see it beforehand. But this film, I brought it up before because Dames, not the cartoon, but the original Warner Brothers feature from 1934, features several songs that have been used in Warner Brothers cartoons. So, like I said, the title track, Dames, or in the cartoon it's referred to as Those Beautiful Dames. You also have Shuffle Off the Buffalo. You have The Girl at the Ironing Board. You have a little bit of Frühlingslied, Spring Song. I mean, that's a piece of music from Felix Mendelssohn from the Romantic period. But, ba 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 bum 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 ba da da. I was actually looking at the clip of Daffy Duck and the Dinosaur from a few days ago. The clip when the dinosaur gets hit in the head and you hear Mendelssohn's Spring Song in the process. But more importantly, you also hear probably the most famous song from this group, besides, I would say, Spring Song, is I Only Have Eyes for You. I only have eyes for you, dear. Of course, there's a Merrie Melody from 1937 that's also called this song that I'll get more into detail in the future. And I also think of the particular cover, the doo-wop cover from the 1950s by the Flamingos. I think that was featured in the film American Graffiti, if I remember correctly, from the 70s. But, of course, Dames, Those Beautiful Dames, is a Harry Warren and Al Dubin composition. If you want to learn more about Harry Warren and Al Dubin, you can listen to some earlier Manny's Music Times where I talk about them. Again, I'll say it once, I'll say it a million times. Warren and Dubin are the Lennon and McCartney of the Warner Brothers oeuvre of song cues that Carl Stalling and Milt Franklin, Norman Spencer, and in this case, Bernard Brown did the musical direction for this cartoon that they sourced from. So lots of good stuff. Great stuff. Great stuff. Now, the last cue that you hear in this cartoon, I was having trouble identifying it as to where exactly it is. According to the cue sheet, the song is called Cupid's Patrol, and it was composed by Charles N. Daniels, who goes by the pseudonym of Neil Murray or Neil Mort. He actually used several pseudonyms in his career as a composer and as a publisher. I spoke briefly about Charles N. Daniels, not Charles Daniels, the country musician, but Charles N. Daniels in the commentary that I did for The Impatient Patient, because the song that Daffy references in that cartoon, Chloe, was written by Charles N. Daniels under the name Neil Moray or Moritz. Again, I'm probably butchering my attempt at French. But just a little bit about him. He was born in Leavenwood, Kansas on April 12th, 1878, and he died January 23rd, 1943. I'm going to assume, because I couldn't find a recording of this particular song, but I'm going to assume that Cupid's Patrol is the music that you hear in the scene just before the toys and the main character have dinner with all the delicious food on the table, and you have the toy soldiers playing a fanfare just before they're about to come inside the dining room. So that's where I think it is, because the cue lasts about 20 seconds, and I was trying to time it as best as I could, and I couldn't find a recording, so I apologize on that. Because, yeah, cue sheet is just I Think You're Ducky, Dames, and Cupid Patrol. And the rest of the cartoon, it's interesting the way that Bernard Brown scored this particular cartoon, that he just heavily relied on the title track, and that's it. As opposed to the usual where it's like at least 5 or 6 different cues appearing in these cartoons, but I guess Bernard tried a different approach to it. I mean, it works. You know, of course, these soundtracks to these cartoons always sound so neat to listen to, but c'est la vie. It is what it is. So this is a pretty short Manny's Music Time. The cartoon itself, it's been a while since I've seen it. Well, the ending I remember vividly because I had it on a VHS, like that scene where the little girl has the Jack in the Box comes up and surprises her, and she does a really weird, like awkward laugh, and then she laughs regularly. But I don't really remember this cartoon too well. When I saw it again, I was like, okay, it's been probably about 6 years since I've seen it last. And it's been restored. It looks really, really nice now. There is one scene in the copy that I had where it all looked in beautiful restoration, la-di-da, whatever. But then there was a brief scene with a unfortunate blackface stereotype that was sourced from an older version of the cartoon and then spliced in. Besides that, I mean, it's a typical run-of-the-mill early Merrie Melody, but significant in the sense that it's the first in 2-strip Technicolor. Yeah, it's a fun little thing to watch if you have some time to kill. So these are my thoughts and Manny's Music Time for Those Beautiful Dames by Warren and Dubin, and I forgot to mention that their names appear in the title card itself. Some cartoons feature the songwriters on the title screen, but not all, but this one is one of them. So thanks a lot for listening. Please follow me on social media at the Toony Tenor, TheTooney, for more updates on my life as a professional musician and as a multifaceted geek of all things Looney Tunes, Merrie Melodies, and other pop culture ephemera that I am a fan of, la-di-da, blah, blah, blah. So thank you very much, folks. Thanks for listening. Thank you for supporting Anthony's channel. And as the court jester at the end of the cartoon says, that's all, folks. It's always nice to see the original ending of this cartoon, because whenever I would see these cartoons on Cartoon Network and they would reuse the same clip of the gesture going, that's all, folks. But this is a different version of it. I noticed the animation's a little more, I guess, more crude, but it was refreshing. It was nice. So yeah, for real this time. That's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
You know, I try not to be harsh on these sort of shorts, but it really is quite dull with a few minor bright spots, and I admire Frizz for trying. It clearly had something in mind, and it just wasn't executed perhaps the way he wanted it. So, this is not a go-to short for me, and I don't think it's a go-to short for a lot of people. It's really more of an important short from a historical perspective, if anything, but yeah, it gets about 5 out of 10. It's not bad, it's just dull. But anyway, it is what it is. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.